Hi, I'm Peter J. Shield. Welcome to my world of unexplained mysteries, Vegas style. Last week, those of you who were watching would know that we dealt with the subject of Houdini, the mysteries pertaining to his life and his somewhat controversial death. My special guest on that occasion was none other than Las Vegas magician, internationally acclaimed no less than Mr. Dixie Dooley. And Dixie's back with us today to deal with a subject which we touched on lightly last week and which I'd like to get into in a little greater depth today, namely that of spirit communication. Houdini, of course, was famous throughout his lifetime for his attempts to debunk the so-called spiritualists of the day, the seances, in attempts to contact his mother who had departed, and subsequently through the pact which he made with his wife, and I'll talk with Dixie a little bit about that further into our program. One of the remarkable things that came out of our discussions last week was the incredible memorabilia that Dixie owns, original Houdini memorabilia, much of it involved or used in the so-called seance presentations that Houdini did. Dixie, welcome back to our show. Pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Peter, once again.
We touched on Houdini last week, and you've been kind enough to bring in some incredible Houdini bits and pieces. We might start our show today by talking a little bit about the collection that you have here and a little bit about your association with Houdini.
Well, the collection that I have, I always, when I first started in magic, wanted to own at least one item that belonged to Houdini that I could treasure and have and show to people. Well, I found an entire collection, actually. I came upon it in Houdini's house on 278 West 113th Street in New York City, where he lived and made his home. And the items are unique because they belong to him personally. This little item here, and this is the first time that it's been seen, is the original Marjorie spirit table that he used to debunk the spirit medium Marjorie. And it's well documented, and if you read any biography on Houdini, you'll probably either see a photograph of Houdini with this table, or you'll see him, you'll read the entire story about the Marjorie escapades where he was trying to debunk her and prove her to be a fraudulent medium.
Right. This actually is a photograph, I think, on this catalog of the actual table.
Right. The unusual thing about this, Peter, you'll see here, it says Adams Press Publishers. It says 278 West 113th Street, New York City. Well, West 113th, New York City, 278 was Houdini's home.
Oh, actually.
So Adam Press Publishers was actually, he printed Houdini's in his basement. Excellent. And he used printing plates much like this, the old style. This is one he used in 1912. And
for a poster for his show.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Printed flyers with it.
Remarkable piece of
But the Marjorie spirit table was in my possession for 6 years before I actually found out that there was a trick to it. And this what happened was I accidentally pulled this board out.
Right, which is normally used to support an extension on a table.
And I thought, oh, I must have broke the table. There was pieces of paper actually stuffed in there, wedged in there, probably by Houdini himself to cause it from turning like this. Right. But the unusual thing about it is when you turn the lever here,
and I'd invite our viewers to watch the little bottle on the table.
It causes this board to rise up and down, as you can see. Right. It works as a lever, and
unbelievable.
What would happen was
the spirits would would manifest.
In the photograph, you'll actually see a box that was placed on the table.
Right. This box here
was shut. Houdini was locked in a box, and this was under controlled conditions where his hands were held by volunteers from the audience, and yet he would cause this little board to rise up, and it would tilt the box slightly and cause a bell to ring inside of the box, which would answer spirit questions. So
one ring for yes and two rings for no type of
that
situation.
Sort of thing. Yeah. And it's quite a little discovery here that to find out that the table was actually so subtly gimmicked, or as Houdini called it, he called it a gag instead of a gimmick or that was the gag to the table there.
Right, unbelievable. And of course, with a cloth on there, you wouldn't know what was going on.
No.
The object would just move mysteriously, and like so many things that were related to seances. Houdini, of course, started in a quest to contact his mother, as I understand it. But that search went on throughout his lifetime, right up until the time of, in fact, his demise. We touched a little bit on Houdini's death last time. We didn't actually get into how he died or the lead up to his being put in hospital, because most people think, having seen the Curtis movie, that he died in the actual water torture. But that wasn't the case.
No, that wasn't the case. He actually performed the water torture cell. It was something he created and performed it for a lot of years in his show as the finale to his show.
Right.
The way he actually died was from a blow to the stomach, but there was a series of events that happened prior to that, where he was ill, his wife was ill, I guess the flu, and he had contracted that as well. And so he was, and he had stayed up all night with her, taking care of her before he actually became sick as well. Right. Then he actually broke his ankle while performing the water torture cell.
Okay, because he was suspended by his feet upside down into the tank.
So actually he was reading his mail backstage at a lecture that he was giving at McGill University up in Canada, and a student came backstage and asked him if it was true that he could take a blow or a punch to the stomach.
Right.
And he would do this by tightening the muscles in his stomach and allow someone to punch him in the stomach. And he was sitting reading his mail, and as he began to rise up, the student punched him before he had time to brace himself. Right. And this set into effect the whole series of him being ill, the broken ankle, and actually and he ended up in the hospital, and he struggled and fought for 7 days, and he passed away at 1:26 p.m. in Grace Memorial Hospital in Detroit in room 409.
Oh, really? Well, you got your facts down, and that was on October 31st, of course.
Halloween, which is now National Magic Day.
Of course. And then finally, and very quickly, because we're out of time before our next little commercial venture, he made a pact with his wife, tried to contact her for 10 years. At the end of the 10 years of unsuccessfully contacting Houdini, and we'll look at some of the sort of effects, perhaps, that were on the table through those seances. The last seance took place at the Knickerbocker Hotel.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Downtown Los Angeles.
Hollywood.
And I guess at the end of that, Houdini's wife stood up and said, "I believe the veil is sealed,
right.
That it's impossible." Because Houdini claimed that if anyone could break the bounds of the hereafter, it would be him, and he would in fact return and contact Bess, his wife. But of course, as we know, that didn't happen. We're going to take a short commercial break, and then we'll be back with my special guest, Dixie Dooley, on Vegas Mysteries.